For as long as I can remember, I have been a gamer, and growing up in the 90s was an incredible time for the genre. We still had the incredible third generation consoles like the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Sega Master System, and the decade saw the release of some of the most important systems of all time, including the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Sega Genesis and Sega Saturn, Sony's PlayStation, the Nintendo 64, and the Sega Dreamcast. Even just reading off the names of these iconic systems is giving me an overwhelming sense of nostalgia, never mind the incredible games they featured. Each of these consoles brought its own unique charm, unforgettable gaming experiences, and groundbreaking innovations that laid the foundation for the gaming industry as we know it today. For me, there's something comforting about returning to the games from this era. The storytelling was captivating, the games were simple yet challenging, visually appealing yet not overwhelming, and enjoyable for the whole family to play together. I recently purchased the Anbernic RG35XX and have been having an absolute blast playing some of my favourite retro games. And it got me thinking, what is my all-time favourite retro game? Not an easy question to answer. Well, over the last couple of months, I've been spending a bit of time going back to some of my favourites to revisit them, and have finally decided on a list that I'm happy with. And in this video, we will explore my top 10. This is my own personal list of what I feel are the best retro video games of all time. I'm sure you will agree with some and disagree with others. But hey, that's the beauty of video games. There's something for everyone. I'm sure your top 10 would be different to mine, so let me know down in the comments below what games you would include on your list. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel if you like this sort of content, and give the video a little thumbs up while you're down there. Now settle in for a nostalgic trip back into the annals of video game history as I list my top 10 greatest retro video games of all time. In 10th place, we have Super Mario Bros. 3. Of course this was going to be on my list, considering it's often hailed as the pinnacle of the Super Mario Bros. Series, but maybe slightly surprising that I have it at 10th and not higher. Released in 1990 for the NES, this side-scrolling platformer is the third best-selling NES game of all time, with around 18 million units sold. The magic of the best retro games lies in their ability to transport us back to simpler times, and Mario Bros. 3 excels in this department. With its iconic music, timeless graphics, and challenging yet fair gameplay, this classic title is a journey down memory lane, whether you played it with siblings, parents, or friends. It remains just as enjoyable today as it was back in the 1990s, a testament to its enduring appeal. I actually first played this game on the Super Nintendo, rather than the NES version. In the early 90s, my family finally got a Super Nintendo, and I remember waking up on Christmas morning to open the Mario All-Stars bundle of the console, of which Super Mario Bros. 3 was one of the 4 games included. Super Mario Bros. 3's compelling narrative unfolds across 8 worlds with over 50 levels to conquer in the quest to rescue Princess Toadstool from the clutches of Bowser. The game's structure, with 8 big bosses and mini-bosses halfway through each world, sets it apart and became a blueprint for future Mario titles. To learn more about the development and launch of this game, I highly recommend checking out the Gaming Historian's documentary on the title. It is exceptional work. This game was always going to be on my list, no matter what. It is one of the greatest video games of all time, never mind among retro games. So as I said, it might be a little surprising that I put this at 10th. But don't fear, this isn't the last time we'll see Mario on this list. Perhaps a surprising entry on my list is Ninja Gaiden at number 9. My first experience with this game was in the late 90s. I used to go to a lot of car boot sales on the weekends with my family, and there was one particular car boot sale I absolutely loved, which was in my hometown of Edinburgh. I have quite vivid memories of this place, and I always remember going directly to the retro video games tables to see what they had available. Ninja Gaiden was one of the NES games I remember picking up from there, and it remains to this day one of my all-time favourite retro games. Released in 1988, Ninja Gaiden is a pinnacle in the action-adventure genre. Renowned for its challenging gameplay and cinematic storytelling, it pushed the boundaries of what gamers thought possible on the 8-bit console. This game wasn't just about slashing through enemies, it was a cinematic experience that captivated players with its gripping narrative and frenetic combat. In fact, Ninja Gaiden won Nintendo Power Magazine's awards for Best Challenge and Best Ending, as well as NES Game of the Year and Best Ending in a Video Game for 1989 in Electronic Gaming Monthly, a testament to the game's great storytelling. This game is a masterpiece that seamlessly blends fast-paced action with a compelling narrative. As Ryu Hayabusa, players embark on a quest to avenge their father's death, encountering deadly foes and mastering a diverse set of ninja skills along the way. The game's difficulty, often infamous among retro enthusiasts, added to its allure, demanding precision and strategy to conquer each stage. There's a fairly active speedrunning scene for the game, with the any% world record currently standing at 11 minutes 32 seconds by the Retro Runner. Check out Summoning Salt's video on the history of Ninja Gaiden world records to see this game in action. At number 8, none other than Street Fighter II. Capcom's original Street Fighter arcade game, released in 1987, received relatively positive reviews, but it was its sequel, Street Fighter II, that changed the fighting genre forever. Street Fighter II improved many of the concepts introduced in the original game, including special command-based moves, the combo system, the 6-button configuration, and a larger selection of playable characters, each with their unique fighting style. We had Guile, Ken, Ryu, E-Honda, Chun-Li, Zangief, Dhalsim, Blanka, Balrog, Vega, Sagat, and M. Bison. My god, this game has the greatest character lineup of any game by far. Visually, this game is beautiful. There were 12 different stages in 8 different countries, with each character having their own stage. My favourite stage was always Vega's stage, inside a cage. Street Fighter II was a global sensation, and became the best-selling game since the golden age of arcades. Its immense popularity spawned a series of revisions and updated versions, including Street Fighter II Champion Edition, which made the 4 Shadaloo bosses Balrog, Vega, Sagat, and M. Bison playable characters, as well as a host of improvements and updates. Street Fighter II Turbo Hyper Fighting, which increased the playing speed and gave some characters new special moves. Super Street Fighter II The New Challengers, which introduced 4 new characters, T-Hawk, Fei Long, DJ, and Cammy. And Super Street Fighter II Turbo, which introduced a new secret character, Akuma. In the winter of 1994, a live-action film of the game was released, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia. While this movie has been panned by critics, I absolutely love it, probably due to the nostalgia it brings back. I'll definitely be covering this movie in a future video, so stay tuned for that. I could have easily put Street Fighter II higher on this list, and it was a tough decision to leave it at number 8. But there's no denying that this is one of the greatest video games ever made. At number 7, we have Crash Bandicoot. There are so many titles in this franchise, but by far my favourite is Crash Bandicoot 3, Warped. The PlayStation 1 was released in Europe in 1995, but I didn't get one until the Christmas of 1998. I remember opening it with such joy that morning, and the game that my parents got me to go with it was Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, which had only just been released a few weeks prior. I played this game so much, and still to this day I hold it as one of my all-time favourite games. In the game, players must travel through time and gather 25 crystals scattered across time before Dr. Neo Cortex and Uka Uka do so. The game was highly praised by critics, who noted its exceptional gameplay, audio and graphics, and it has become one of the best-selling games on the PlayStation, with around 7 million units sold. The game is spectacular, and for me its replayability, gameplay and awesome soundtrack is what makes it stand out. Similar to Super Mario, this is the kind of game the whole family can enjoy together. I still own the copy of this game and the PlayStation 1 I received all the way back in 1998, and I still love jumping back into this game every now and then. In at number 6, we have one of the most influential and beloved Japanese RPGs of all time, Final Fantasy VII. While many hold this as the greatest Final Fantasy game ever made, for me it's my second favourite. There's another on my list a little later, so stay tuned for that. Final Fantasy VII has won so many awards and has been so well lauded by fans and critics that I could sit here for hours listing all of the game's accolades. The game follows the adventures of Cloud, a mercenary who joins an eco-terrorist organization set on stopping a world-controlling megacorporation from using the planet's life essence as an energy source. The game sends Cloud and his allies in pursuit of Sephiroth, a superhuman who seeks to harness the planet's healing power to be reborn as a god. The storyline is gripping, and even though I know everything that's going to happen, I can still come back to this game time and time again and never get bored. The game was the first Final Fantasy to use 3D graphics, the first in the series to feature cinematic pre-rendered cutscenes, and it was the first mainline Final Fantasy game to be released in Europe. Hence, it was my first introduction to the Final Fantasy series. There's not much more I can say about this game. It's an absolute masterpiece, and will forever remain one of the greatest video games of all time. Before we move into my top 5, it would be great if you could subscribe to the channel and give this video a little thumbs up. And let me know in the comments if there's any particular topics you'd like me to cover in a future video. In at number 5 is a timeless classic, GoldenEye 007 on the N64. This game really had it all. Released for the Nintendo 64 in 1997, this first-person shooter not only redefined multiplayer gaming, but also set new standards for the first-person shooter genre. Developed by Rare, who will feature again in this video soon, GoldenEye 007 was a remarkable adaptation of the James Bond film of the same name, but it went far beyond being a simple movie tie-in. The game's exceptional single-player campaign, innovative multiplayer mode, and overall impact on the gaming industry make it a timeless masterpiece. One of the key factors that contributed to GoldenEye's greatness was its multiplayer mode. I have so many awesome memories of playing the multiplayer mode of this when I was a kid. Some of the best memories I have, and the game still holds up to this day, even if the frame rate doesn't. The game's diverse range of maps, weapons and customizable options provided endless hours of competitive fun. Beyond its multiplayer brilliance, GoldenEye delivered an immersive single-player experience that set new benchmarks for narrative-driven first-person shooters. The game's missions were intricately designed, offering a mix of stealth, action, and exploration. The variety of gameplay mechanics, from intense shootouts to stealthy infiltrations, showcased Rare's ability to craft a diverse and engaging gaming experience. The game played a pivotal role in popularizing console-based first-person shooters, and its influence can still be seen in the gaming industry today. I am particularly fascinated by the speedrunning scene that has existed for this game for decades, as players attempt to complete each level on each difficulty in the fastest time possible. It is truly remarkable what some of these players are able to do in this game. I was tempted to put this a little lower on my list, but when I think back to my childhood and the games that defined my early gaming experiences, this game stands out as my go-to game for multiplayer fun with friends. The Pokemon fever that swept the world in the late 90s and early 2000s was a remarkable time to be alive, and this was the game that started it all, Pokemon Red and Blue. Released in Japan in 1996, North America in 98, and Europe in 99, The original Pokemon games follow the adventures of Ash Ketchum, or whatever you decided to call him, as he adventures through the fictional region of Kanto, which is based on the real-life Kanto region in Japan, in his quest to become a Pokemon master. While I've played this game a number of times, the one thing I'm embarrassed to admit is that I have never completed the Pokédex. That is something I definitely have to remedy soon. The media franchise that has spawned from this game's release is staggering. Almost every year a new game is released. Pokemon manga is incredibly popular. There have been 23 animated films and 1 live-action film. There's been over 25 seasons of the animated TV series, and who can forget the unreal Pokemon card fever of the late 90s and early 2000s. I think what I love about Pokemon Red and Blue is the freedom it offers players as they journey around Kanto. You can follow the story at your own pace as you battle Pokemon on your journey, and you could even trade Pokemon between 2 cartridges using the Game Link cable. The challenge to catch them all is truly the game's biggest draw. This is one of the games I've been playing quite a lot on the Anbernic RG35XX, and it's particularly spectacular playing on a beautiful IPS display. Let me know down in the comments what your favourite Pokemon are. Taking the bronze medal, perhaps controversially, is Final Fantasy VIII. While this is undoubtedly a great game, there are few who rank it higher than Final Fantasy VII, but I am one of those people. For me, this is my absolute favourite Final Fantasy game. I remember playing Final Fantasy VII as a kid and being blown away by it, and after getting my own PlayStation for the first time in 1998, I knew I had to get a Final Fantasy game of my own. In 1999, Final Fantasy VIII was released, and I bought it almost immediately upon its release. In my view, this game is a masterpiece. The game follows a group of young mercenaries led by Squall Leonhardt as they are drawn into a conflict started by a sorceress named Edia Kramer who seized control of the powerful Galbadian army. The game follows Squall as he struggles with his role as leader and develops a romance with one of his team, Rinoa Hartley. I think this story is incredible and the characters are charming. It was also the first Final Fantasy game to use realistically proportioned characters, which gave the game a sense of realism in comparison to its predecessors. The game's triple triad card game was highly addictive, the cutscenes were spectacular, and don't get me started on the music. Legendary composer Nobuo Uematsu completely hits it out of the park with his score for this game. Sure, the game has some flaws, most notably the game's junction system that wasn't for everyone, but on the whole, there's not a lot bad I can say about it. I've played through this game so many times, and I'm currently playing through it again for the umpteenth time on my Anbernic device. It just never gets old, and I have such fond memories of playing this game that I will always rank it higher than 7. And for these reasons, Final Fantasy VIII is third on my list of greatest retro games of all time. In at number 2, the second title in this top 10 developed by Rare, it's Donkey Kong Country. Man, this game has it all. Released in 1994, Donkey Kong Country follows the gorilla Donkey Kong and his nephew Diddy Kong as they set out to recover their stolen banana hoard from the Crocodile King K. Rool and his army of Kremlings. Following its announcement at the Consumer Electronics Show in 1994, the game was highly anticipated, and the marketing campaign that followed cost $16 million in America alone. And upon its release, the game was highly praised by critics and was lauded as a paradigm shift that set new standards for video games. Electronic Gaming Monthly called Donkey Kong Country one of the few games that is actually as good as the hype. Among the game's best aspects are its visuals and graphics. For a 16-bit game, the detail the developers were able to achieve was unprecedented at the time. As for the music, the game's soundtrack is captivating, with classic tracks such as Simian Segway, Aquatic Ambience, Life in the Mines, Forest Frenzy, and Ice Cave Chant. Wow, just hearing those tunes is making me itch to play it again. I think the reason I hold this game in such high regard is the amount of fun I had with my family playing it. My parents, sister and I used to crowd around our TV in the living room in the evenings to play this game, and I have great memories from that time that I will always hold dear. I miss those days of passing the controller around for everyone to have a go. Gaming isn't really like that anymore, and I'm sure you all miss those days as much as I do. This really is a perfect game, but it is only number 2 on my list of greatest retro games of all time. Before I reveal my number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Had I extended this list to 20, almost all of these games would have featured. I've always been a big fan of Japanese RPGs, and Chrono Trigger is a game I absolutely love. With its multiple endings, character development side quests, unique battle system, and detailed graphics, this game was revolutionary. Super Mario Kart has to feature in the notable mentions too. This was one of those games that my family and I played the hell out of. It just never gets old. And of course, I also need to mention Mario Kart 64. It didn't make it into my top 10, but it would be highly ranked on my list of multiplayer games. Ocarina of Time gets an honorable mention. I'm sure this would be very high on some people's top 10 lists. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this game, but for me it didn't quite make the top 10. Maybe 11th. Tekken 3 is another of the first games I purchased after getting my PlayStation 1, and I have a lot of great memories playing this. In terms of fighting games though, nothing can top Street Fighter 2, so Tekken 3 gets an honorable mention. Another game I have great memories of is Worms. I remember picking this up from a car boot sale for the Super Nintendo. The entire franchise is excellent, but I'll always have a soft spot for the original. Metal Gear Solid has to get an honorable mention. This was the first stealth-style video game I had ever played, and I remember getting quite frustrated at its difficulty when I was young. But nonetheless, the game is incredible and deserves to be mentioned here. I'm going to give Metal Slug a mention here, as it's the only game in this video that I was introduced to in arcades. I remember going camping with my family when I was young, and the campsite we used to go to had a Metal Slug 2 cabinet, and it was one of the highlights of my trips to be able to play this game again. Spectacular game. And the final honorable mention goes to Sonic the Hedgehog. Growing up, my uncle had a Game Gear, and I remember always wanting him to bring it whenever we saw him so that I could play some Sonic the Hedgehog. I never owned a Sega console when I was younger, but still have lots of great memories of playing this game at my friend's house. That's all for the honorable mentions. Now it's time to see what I've chosen as the number 1 greatest retro game of all time. Of course, what else could it have been? Super Mario World. In my opinion, this game is absolutely perfect, and no other retro game can come close to this. Released in 1990 in Japan, 1991 in North America, and 1992 in Europe, Super Mario World has sold over 20 million units worldwide. It was the first Mario game that was developed for the Super Nintendo and was designed to make the most of the console's technical features, offering the development team more freedom to push the limits of what was possible at the time. With 96 level exits in total, there is plenty to explore as you traverse Dinosaur Land with either Mario or Luigi on their quest to save Princess Peach from Bowser and the Koopalings. While the gameplay is similar to previous entries in the series, there's just something magical about Super Mario World. The game pops from the screen with spectacularly colourful visuals and an incredible soundtrack to boot. The game has been re-released many times since then, including as part of the 1994 compilation Super Mario All-Stars and Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. For the Game Boy Advanced as Super Mario World, Super Mario Advanced 2 in 2001, on the Virtual Console for the Wii, Wii U and new Nintendo 3DS consoles, and as part of the Super NES Classic Edition. Most recently, in 2019, it was released for Nintendo Switch Online as part of the Classic Games service. The game received widespread critical acclaim, winning multiple Game of the Year awards, with critics particularly commending the game's replayability and unique gameplay. Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto has said that Super Mario World is his favorite Mario game. The game is quite simply a masterpiece in 2D game design, and since its release, I have never played a better 2D platformer since. The game has stood the test of time, and it will always remain my #1 greatest retro game of all time. Thank you so much for watching. This is the first gaming related video I've posted on the channel, and I've had such a blast putting this together. While I absolutely love playing modern video games, there's just something comforting about going back to a time when gaming was a little bit simpler and immersing myself in one of these timeless classics. I've had such a great time putting this video together that you can be sure there will be more gaming related content coming soon. If you haven't already, it would mean the world if you could subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Do let me know in the comments below what would be your picks for the greatest retro games of all time, and I look forward to reading your comments. Thanks everyone, and see you in the next one.